So, sorry I'm late. I had a thing. It's fine. We're good.
We'll go ahead and continue with our post-race press conference. We are now joined by the winner of our race, James Hinchcliffe, driving the number 5 Aero Lucas Oil Schmidt Peterson Motorsports Honda. James, first of all, congratulations. This is James's 4th career win. He last won at Iowa in 2013. It was obviously a very interesting race. Talk about some of the challenges you faced and how you eventually worked your way up to first.
Biggest one was car sickness. All those yellows, man, weaving back and forth and accelerating and braking. I literally felt like I was going to throw up in my helmet. I feel bad for the fans that we had so much yellow, but obviously, in all seriousness, the race for us was obviously pretty good. We kind of went with a hybrid setup of wet and dry because it looked like it was going to go dry, and picked off a couple people in the wet, just trying to stay out of trouble. It was tough out there, and there were some guys driving a little bonsai, and kind of making sure you weren't in a position to get taken out was kind of the name of the game in the first half of the race. And the first stop was great, picked up a few more places there, and then the crew made the decision on that yellow to stay out. And honestly, at first we did it for weather, but the weather held off. At the end of the day, it was actually yellows that saved us. And at first I was cursing the yellows that were coming out because we really needed green to get a gap to try and have a better shot at it when we did stop. But a one-stop strategy, who would have thought that was going to play out here today? So just super proud of everybody at Schmidt. To have the second race together and already have a win is awesome. And they've got a thing about first races. They seem to do pretty well there, and to get Honda back on top, it's just a great race all around.
And it's almost fitting that you drive to victory here. You've been in this market a lot since we announced our race, participating in the Crew of Bacchus Mardi Gras Parade. Just talk about the race as an experience and the city as an experience as well.
Yeah, I came down here last June for the announcement that we were going to be doing a race here, and seeing how far the track's come is incredible. Laney and the entire crew here have done an excellent job. Kristen, Tim, all those guys deserve a huge amount of credit, and IndyCar for pulling it off. And when we got to come down from Mardi Gras, that was a pretty unique experience in and of itself. And, kind of getting to see the local culture and getting to be a part of that. And at the same time, seeing how much everybody was really looking forward to the race. everybody had heard of the track. Everybody had heard that IndyCar was coming to town. And it wasn't that a race was coming to town. They knew IndyCar was coming to town. And that's not something we see all the time. So to have them have that kind of enthusiasm and then come out and sit through what was not exactly an ideal weekend weather-wise, it means a lot to us. And I hope that they enjoyed it, and we can't wait to come back next year and put on hopefully an even better show.
Questions for James? Bruce.
After St. Pete, some people may have jumped to the conclusion too quickly about the Aero kit, Chevy and Honda. How valuable was it to win a race for Honda in the second race to kind of quell a lot of that?
No, for sure. Getting Honda back on top was huge. If you looked at the times after first practice, and maybe it looked a little iffy, but that's the best thing about IndyCar racing is you never know what's going to happen in these races. And for us, qualifying getting rained out was unfortunate because I genuinely think that we'd found a decent amount of pace by qualifying, whether it was in the wet or the dry. And luckily, we got ourselves in a position to run up front, and on those restarts, Honda power was good, the Aero kit was good, we were pulling away from a Penske, so we can't really complain at this point.
Yes, Brett.
What went through your mind shortly after winning when you ran out of gas? Did you fully appreciate the pit strategy, I guess, and how race it was?
No, it actually, I had to turn it off because we were overheating at the end there. But it was still close. I was trying to save so much fuel under caution there, and I've got the fuel tank reading on my dash, and I was kind of putting my thumb over it under caution there because I didn't want to see how low it was getting. And it's just one of those things. The yellows played out. I'm happy that we did have the pace on those restarts. We were pulling away from guys, so I feel a little more justified. It wasn't completely a strategy thing. We did survive a couple restarts where a lot of guys were having problems. We had the pace to do that, but for sure the fuel was getting tight at the end there. I wasn't allowed to do donuts. Let's put it that way. We thought I'd run out of gas.
Yes, Kurt.
How would you explain the second half of the race or anything after lap 15? You got off to a good start as a field in the first part of the race, and then it was just chaos.
Yeah, it's ironic that in the wet we managed to be well behaved, and in the dry we all run into each other. It doesn't really seem like that makes a whole lot of sense, but it really is unfortunate, because a lot of good cars had really bad days, and I feel bad for those guys, certainly. And like I said, the big loser here was the fans because they didn't get as much green flag racing as we would have liked and as they would have liked. The saving grace is that when we were green, it was pretty dicey. There was a lot of action on track. So, we'll I think back to TK's comment in the post St. Pete press conference about just having to not run into each other as much, and clearly that didn't happen. But, part of it was just tricky conditions. I mean, there was a river running across the last corner. There's a reason why we saw a lot of guys spinning coming to restarts. When you're on slicks and there are still puddles and rivers running across the track, it's not easy. And it was just about, being smart out there was the biggest thing, and unfortunately a couple people got caught out. No, actually, the first guy through the puddle is usually at the biggest disadvantage because every car that goes through it kicks up a little bit more and more water, and by 20th place, it's not as bad. When we started having those cautions there after the original sort of stops and switched to slicks, the track wasn't too bad because we had been running. Once we started going yellow and yellow and yellow, the puddles kind of started growing and growing and growing. And yeah, the first guy through them is usually in the worst position, so we were lucky to hold on there.
Bruce and Tony?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome driving for Sam and for Rick, the only Canadian team owner, and then a team owner that I race for in Indy Lights. He really helped bring me into this world and taught me all about oval racing and just the IndyCar world in general. So to have come full circle and get to race back with him was great. And you know what? It's funny. I never even actually won a race for Sam in Lights. All my wins came the following year, and it's definitely a lot better. I'd much rather do it at this level and give him one of these because he deserves it. All the guys deserve it. Alan and Robert and Will and all the guys on the stand that made that call. That's not an easy risk to take, but we did it and it paid off. So they deserve this one for sure. To be honest, we never really got 5 and 6, or mainly 5 sorted all weekend. We kind of were having to drive around it a little bit, so there's definitely work to do on the dry setup, and in the wet. In Q1 there, we kind of caught a lucky break with the Bourdais penalty to get in. We realized a pretty big mistake that we'd made in Q1, so confident we were going to be better in Q2. But no, honestly, the track's pretty good. Our car was really solid, other than turn 5, and it's tough to tune out the rest of the racetrack just for that one corner. So we'll definitely look back on it, and it just proves that we can be even stronger when we come back here next year.
Chris and then Brett.
James, having lived in the Andretti Autosport, in the second race you did a win while the top car was fourth, talk about how rewarding it is that even though you had a major change in environment, you still would come out on top.
I mean, obviously, it's great when you come to a new team. You want to reach that level as quickly as possible. And 2014 was frustrating in a lot of ways. We had that speed and we're in that position a bunch of times to take a win and take podiums, and it just didn't happen for us. So it's nice to know the curse is kind of broken, and I could give the guys at Schmidt Peterson the faith in me that we can be race winners together.
So as a follow-up to my earlier question, can you explain what your strategy was for clean restarts coming out of that 13th turn over the water?
Well, yeah, the race is over, so I can tell you now. The biggest, it's funny, the biggest puddle was kind of right on the exit on the outside on the normal racing line. So you had to drive through an entire river first, and then there was kind of half a puddle after that. And for some reason, a lot of guys were kind of staying on the normal racing line and driving through that puddle for no reason. The first one everybody had to hit. The second one was a little bit more avoidable. And I saw some guys doing it, but some guys not. And, obviously that was what I was trying to do, was just keep the rears out of the water, and it worked out. But, I mean, I got pretty sideways a couple times on some of those restarts, wheel spin up to third gear. So it's just a tricky situation. It's not super surprising we had incidents out there.
Other questions? Yes, Bruce.
Heading to Long Beach is a race winner. It's a tight street course. What's your forecast?
Man, if last year were an indication, carnage. But hopefully hopefully we've learned our lessons. That's a track I love. That's a track I've always run really well at. We were obviously in a position fighting for the win last year, and got my first podium in IndyCar there, my first lights pole there, my first lights win there. So it really is a track that's treated me well, and I really, really enjoy. So hopefully we've got a good fast car. We qualify up front. We actually get a chance to qualify, get up front, and we'll let whatever happens behind us happen and just kind of push forward.